in this video I'll talk about disrobing behavior in children with autism. I'll describe the characteristics of the behavior and I'll offer you some general strategies on managing the disrobing behavior in children with autism. Disrobing behavior in children with autism refers to the tendency to remove clothing and accessories in various situations, often without regards for social norms or appropriateness. This behavior can manifest differently in different individuals and can be challenging for both the child and their caregivers. Not all children with autism exhibit disrobing behavior, and when it does occur, the reason behind it can vary. Disrobing behavior can involve the child taking off their clothes, including items like shirt, pants, socks, or shoes. Sometimes it may extend to removing accessories like hats, glasses, or jewelry. This behavior often occurs in settings where it is socially unacceptable or inappropriate, such as public places, schools, or social gatherings. The behavior may also be seen at home when the child is experiencing sensory sensitivities or discomfort. Children with autism may experience sensory sensitivities. Certain clothing textures or tags can cause discomfort or distress, leading to the removal of the clothing to alleviate the sensory overload. For some children with autism, removing clothing may serve as a way to self-regulate their emotions or sensory experiences. It could be a coping mechanism to deal with stress, anxiety, or sensory overload. Nonverbal children may use disrobing behavior as a way to communicate their needs or discomfort, especially if they have difficulty expressing themselves through speech. Some children may engage in disrobing behavior to attract attention from caregivers or peers, especially if they received a notable reaction in the past. Last, disrobing may become a habitual behavior that they engage in without necessarily connecting it to the context. Here are some examples of disrobing behavior. A child with autism may start removing their shoes, socks, or other clothing item while at a restaurant, store, or park, causing concerns and embarrassment for their caregivers. A child may start undressing in response to a loud noise or a crowded environment, trying to cope with sensory overload by removing clothing that feels uncomfortable. Disrobing behavior may be manifested during transitions, such as when the child has to switch from one activity to another. They may start undressing as a way to resist the transition. If a child is experiencing discomfort due to tug or a rough texture, they may take off their clothing item to communicate their discomfort. Now, let's talk about some possible scientific methods and strategies that can help manage this behavior. First, assessment. Disrobing is a behavior, and as with any behavior, we'll need to observe it, describe it, measure it, and analyze it in order to identify the underlying cause. By finding the real function of the behavior, we will be able to decide on the appropriate interventions case by case. Second, address sensory sensitivities. You can address a child's sensory sensitivities by providing sensory-friendly clothing and textures that the child finds comfortable. Here you can add the sensory breaks to allow the child to engage in sensory activities that help regulate their sensory system, reducing the urge to disrobe for sensory input. For example, create a sensory bin filled with materials like rice, beans, sand, or water beads. Opt for clothing made from soft materials that minimize potential irritation and discomfort. Consider using compression clothing like a snug-fitting undershirt that can provide a consistent, comforting sensation, or set up a sensory station with different textures such as textured fabrics, Play-Doh, or textured tiles. Third, visual support and functional communication. Use visual schedules to establish a routine that includes appropriate time for changing clothes or engaging in preferred activities. Implement visual supports like social stories to explain why certain behaviors are inappropriate and offer alternatives. Teach the child functional communication and a request for time alone or for a break when feeling overwhelmed or in need for sensory stimulation. Fourth, replacement behavior. Teach an alternative behavior that serves the same sensory need, such as playing with slinky, squeezing a stress ball, or using a sensory brush when feeling the urge of disrobing. Fifth, manipulate the environment. Here, you'll make sure that the child's clothing is comfortable, non-restricted, and appropriate for the weather to reduce discomfort. Create a designated private space where the child can go to fulfill sensory needs in a more appropriate manner by engaging with a variety of sensory toys and activities. 6. Positive reinforcement. Praise and reward the child when they engage in appropriate behavior such as keeping their clothes on or using alternative sensory tools. For example, implement a token system where the child earns tokens for keeping their clothes on during designated times. Once they accumulate a certain number of tokens, they can exchange them for a preferred activity or item. 7. Social skills training. Teach the child appropriate social behavior and boundaries, including the importance of privacy and appropriate clothing in public settings. For example, choose a doll or stuffed animal and explain that you're going to play a dressing game together. Pick clothing items that are appropriate for different locations, such as swimsuits for pool, a raincoat for rain weather, and regular clothes for going to the park. Explain why each clothing item is appropriate for its respective setting. Have the child take turns dressing the doll or stuffed animal for different scenarios. Use picture cards to represent different locations, home, park, school, and so on. Prompt the child to choose the appropriate clothing for each setting based on what they have learned. After the dress-up game, gather the clothing items and sit down for a discussion. Use the social story or visual aids to reinforce the concept of appropriate dressing in different places. Ask the child questions to check their understanding, such as where do we wear swimsuits? Or why do we wear jackets when it's cold outside? 8. And last, collaboration with professionals. Work closely with occupational therapists, behavior analysts, and speech language pathologists to develop and implement a comprehensive behavior plan. Please remember that each child is unique, with individual strengths and struggles. Treat each child individually. Assess and prescribe individualized strategies that will match their abilities and needs. I hope this video helped you understand what disrobing behavior is, its characteristics, and how to manage it. If you have any questions, make sure you type them in the comments below, and I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.